Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi, and in today's video we're going to be looking at making a replacement cape for a vintage Battlestar Galactica Imperious Leader figure. Now, when this figure first came out, it wasn't the most impressive of looking toys, but it did have a little cape with it, and often when you find this figure now, that cape is missing and underneath he does look rather odd. So today we are going to work out a way to make a replacement cape, but I also want to make a custom cape for him because I always thought that this cape was a little bit on the basic side compared to what you see in the TV series and in the movie. So we're going to make a version that looks more like that, but still keep it in a very toy style so it fits with the rest of the figures in the line. So let's get on with the project. So here we have the Imperious Leader from Battlestar Galactica, and he is a very strange looking toy and sort of looks like the Imperious Leader that you see in the TV show, because Imperious Leader, when you do see him, he's just sort of hidden in the background. You get a vague idea of what his head looks like. You can see that he's wearing robes, otherwise you don't see a lot about him. So when the toy designers had to make a toy of him, they made this, and if you take his robes off, he looks like this, which is even weirder. And often you do actually find Imperious Leader looking like this with his robes missing. So I thought it would be fun to make some replacements for him, but I also actually want to make this look a lot more like the Imperious Leader that you see in the show, because the Imperious Leader's robes in this show have more detailing on the front. They have a sort of bib that hangs down that's made out of scales, and I thought I could make something that makes this look a lot more like that, but we'll still keep it in a toy style. So I'm going to make a pattern that replaces this, but I will also add some embellishments to it to make this look a lot more interesting. So the first thing we need to do is actually make a pattern, and what we do with that is to take the robes off one of the figures. So this is the robes off the figure. I will turn it inside out, and I'm going to lay this onto a flatbed scanner, scan it in, do a little bit of Photoshop work, and we will make a pattern out of it. It's a pretty simple cape. It's just got some sewing down at the edges and a little bit of hemming at the top. So let's get a pattern made, and while I'm doing that, I will also design some custom pieces to go on the top of this. Now that I've got that pattern, we can get to cutting out some fabric, and I've chosen two different types of fabric. This is both toy knit, and I've got it in two different colours. I've got this nice sort of vibrant pink, and I've got a more subdued purple, and I think those two go together pretty nicely and should make a pretty reasonable looking cape. They're a little bit more vibrant than the original cape that came in the figure. This has faded over the years, obviously, so it's a little bit sort of duller, and it's a bit more red, but I think these materials will look pretty nice. You can really use whatever material you like. I like this toy knit because it has a real sort of 1970s and 80s feel to it, and it's incredibly easy to get. I will put a link to where I get it in the description. It's also very easy to work with. I've already printed out the pattern onto some plain A4 paper, and on the back of it I have stuck some double-sided tape, so all we've got to do is stick that onto here and then cut around it. So there are 4 parts of the pattern. I've only got 3 of them here because actually one of them is duplicated. This is the main sort of replacement pattern, so if you want to make just the basic cape, you just need this part and you have to cut it out twice. For my custom one, there are 2 extra pieces. We have this sort of back panel, which is going to go over the back of the shoulders, and then we have this front panel, which looks a little bit like an elephant, but it will make sense once we get them all cut out. So let's get these cut out, and then we can start sewing. With those pieces cut out, we can now start putting this together. And if you want to just make a basic replacement cape, what you have to do is actually sew a little hem along the top there, and that's that little marking there on the pattern. So what you'd have to do is just fold that edge over, sew along there. We'll do the same on the other one, and then place these 2 pieces together with the good side on the inside, and then sew down the edges, and that would give you a replacement cape that would look much like the original. But that's not what we're going to do here. We want to use these extra pieces that I've made. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to fold over that little top piece so that we make a little hem, and that's with the sort of outside surface pointing away from me. Then I'm going to take one of these pieces, which is the front piece here, then I'm going to lay the cape onto the top of that, make sure it lines up. So you can see I've got that on the pattern here as well. And then we're going to sew the hem, so that we sew through both pieces. We sew the hem and this purple piece onto the front like that, and then we will do this exactly the same with this back piece. And then once we've got all of that, we can sew it together, and we should get quite an interesting looking cape. So let's get this all sewn together. I found some thread which is a pretty reasonable match for the purple, because the purple is actually going to be on the outside of this, so I think that will match pretty nicely. I've already threaded my needle. I've just got to do the little bit of sewing here on the top of both pieces, and then we'll sew everything together. We now have both sides hemmed with that little extra piece put on the front and the back, and that is going to create the collar. So we now put these both good sides together like that, and make sure everything is lined up. And then if you can see on the pattern, we've got a sewed line down each edge, so we have to do the same on here. We've got to sew all the way down that edge and all the way down that edge. Once that's done, we can then turn it inside out, and we'll see what this new cape looks like. So again, I've got some thread here. I'm just going to get sewing. And there you go, that is the 2 sides sewn together. So let's turn this the right way around, and we'll see what it looks like. You can see we have the collar all neatly sewn in there, and the basic shape does look like the original cape. I'll bring in the original one so you can see, That's pretty close. So now the thing to do is to try this on the figure, because already I think that's looking a lot better. Getting the cape on this figure is a real pain because he has such a massive head. You can actually push the head through, but it does sort of stretch the fabric a bit. I'm going to try and go sort of feet first and see if I can get him in that way. We'll just sort of see what works best. But yeah, getting the cape on him has always been a pain. So we'll just see what we can get done. But I think feet first might be the way forwards, because I can squeeze his arms in. And hopefully I can push this over his shoulders easier than I can push it over his head. Yeah, there we go. That is not looking too bad at all. That's certainly looking more interesting than the original cape, which, as you saw, was just plain fabric. It's now got an extra bit of detail, but not too much detail, because I still want this to look like a toy. But I think we can do more, because if you look at some of the shots of the original Imperious Leader outfit, you can see he has a necklace, and I think adding a necklace will really just sort of bring this to life. So let's see what we can make and put a little necklace on this figure as well. I've had a quick look in Mrs. toy-polloi sort of crafting supplies, and she has this little bag of purple beads, which I think will be ideal. She also has some of this beading wire, which is tinted purple. So my plan is just to thread a whole load of these onto some of the beading wire and see if I can make a little necklace. I've never tried this before. I've no idea how long it will take, because these beads are incredibly tiny, possibly about 2 millimeters across. It could take a while, but I think it will be worth it. So let's see if we can make a little necklace out of these. And here we go. Here is the finished Imperious Leader, and I think that little necklace just adds that final touch that he needed, taking this from an otherwise pretty boring looking figure, and one that I remember having as a child and thinking, this just doesn't look anything like an Imperious Leader. Why would anyone follow him? What I've got now I think really does look like the leader of the Cylons, and I am so much happier with how he looks, and certainly now that I've got him displayed with a few Cylons, he really does look like the boss of them. So I'm very happy with the outcome of this project. If you want to have a go at this yourself, I will put the pattern that I've created up on toy-polloi.com, so go there, download it, print it out onto some plain paper, add a little bit of double-sided sticky tape and get cutting. You can choose whatever fabric you like. As I say, I use toy knit because I find it very easy to work with. The colours I've chosen here are a little bit more vibrant than the original toy, and possibly a little bit more vibrant than those that you see in the movie, but I think they work really well at this scale. But it really is up to you what sort of colours you go for. Hopefully you have enjoyed this video. If you have, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified each time I upload a new video. And if you've really enjoyed it and want to help support toy-polloi, then why not think about becoming a Patreon or YouTube channel member. You get early access to all of my restoration videos, and also access to an exclusive video series called On the Cutting Mat, where I show projects and restorations you won't see anywhere else. So have a think about that, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos.